Hi guys, welcome to HOPStart. In today's episode, we are going to go and talk to Mr. Sumer Datta, who's the co-founder of Noble House. And then we are going to go to Ansa Interiors. So let's get started. Hi, Mr. Sumer. Thank you for talking to us. I would, of course, want to ask you first off about business management and consultancy as a growing and upcoming field. I mean, this term particularly has, I think, gained importance in the past couple of years, which opposed to in the past we wouldn't even hear about as much. So, can you talk about that a little?
Well, I don't know where, I've been in the consulting business for 30 years now. So I would think it was always there. It's just that in the last 2 decades, the need for, at least for the Indian companies, multinationals were always familiar with it. But it's the Indian conglomerates and even the mid-level companies who started feeling the need and the urge. And primarily driven by the economics of the country, right? When the company is doing well, it needs consulting to know how do we grow from wherever we are today, okay? Based on whatever the vision and the mission that the company set for themselves, depending on whether they have the team and the people internally or they need an outside help of experts to come in and help them show that path,
Right.
you hire consultants.
Right.
When you're not doing well, you again need consultants, right? Because
Correct.
you need specialists to come in and tell you how do we sort
Right.
our mess, how do we get out of that. We need to now get onto a consolidation or a growth path. So either way, you need consulting, right?
Right.
And so I think that's what the Indian economy, well, I would say 2 decades ago is really would be the right term when all the business consulting companies, financial consulting companies, and we guys who were in the HR space, so I think we all started investing a lot in the country, and then I guess the growth of the Indian economy helped the consulting firms grow.
So, you've also co-founded Noble House. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, I started my journey, my consulting journey, 30 years ago. I used to, and I'll tell you how I started this because I was actually a finance professional. I was a management accountant with a very large Indian automotive company. And I'd done 5 years with that company, and then I started getting antsy about what's my future in this company, what I'm going to do 20 years later. I will probably retire as a general manager or a vice president, right. And is that what I wanted? So I think it was so I wanted a change, okay? And I honestly at that time I wanted a change in my job because I think I was getting bored in what I was doing. Right. And I was all of 26 years old at that time. So I went to my friend in the HR department and I said, can you give me all the names and addresses of all the recruiting firms and the search firms that you deal with? Okay. So he said, why do you want it? And I said, I'm looking for a change. I want to change my job. So I want to go and meet all these consultants. Okay. So he gave me a long list of some 30 consulting companies who were into recruitment and hiring. So I took 1 week off from my company and I went with my resume to all these firms looking for a job. Right. I came back after a week and I threw that list on my friend's face and I said, nothing is going to work. I don't think people know how recruitment should be done in this country. Right. So he laughed at me and he said, what, you didn't get a job? So is that why you're frustrated? So I told him I'm not frustrated because I didn't get a job. I'm frustrated because the way these companies were handling was just, I think, was not appropriate. And they just didn't have their act together. Right. So he said, what do you want to do now? I said, I'm going to quit. So he said, what are you going to quit and do what? I said, I'm going to start a search firm.
Uh-huh.
He said, are you kidding me? You can't do recruitment. You don't understand recruitment. I said, yeah, I don't. I'm a finance guy, but I want to do recruitment. And I quit my job and I started a recruitment firm. And I took the name Noble House from James Clavell book because the book used to lie on my bedside, and I was looking for a name and I saw this. I said, okay, we'll call ourselves Noble House.
Right.
And I started Noble House 30 years ago and do recruitment.
Right.
Okay. And I had no idea about what recruitment's all about, how do you do it,
Right.
how am I going to find people who are looking for a job, and how I'm going to find companies who are looking for people, how the hell am I going to do the match. I had no idea, but I started.
Right.
Okay. Cut a long story short, 3 years were very tough. I had not even a rupee in my pocket, didn't earn anything. And then I guess I had my first breakthrough, and then that one thing led to the other, etc., etc. And that's how Noble House started.
Could you also talk about gig economy, particularly for people who do not know about this?
Yeah, so gig economy really is, as the word gig goes.
Right.
Okay, I'm doing a small gig here, and I want to do, I like to go play a guitar in the evening for an hour with a band. Okay,
Elsewhere,
that's a
yeah.
gig. So I'm doing a gig, right? That's so, but you were pursuing your hobbies, typically, right? That's how people used to relate to gigs.
Right.
Today, gig economy, when we say, the context really is that I want to do 3 days a week
Okay.
in A company, I can do 2 days a week in a B company,
Okay.
and I can do 2 hours in a C company, and so on and so forth. So I'm doing small assignments
Okay.
at my own timings.
Right.
So I've got flexibility. I'm not a full-time employee.
Right.
Okay. So I have a freedom to do when I want to do, what I want to do.
Sure.
And I can choose as many assignments as I want to pick.
So I'm glad you brought up millennials and what they think and how, of course, they're benefiting from the gig economy and this concept. So one piece of advice before we wrap this up, what would you say to someone who's probably starting out right now and wants to probably do something that you have achieved in your life?
Well, that's I don't want to give like a gyan at 20,000 feet. On the ground, reality is that while gig is fine, but I think it's very important to have or develop skills.
Okay.
Okay, whatever you do, wherever you do,
Right.
develop those skills, become an expert, become a specialist, and then the world is all yours. You can do a full-time work, you can do a gig work. Experience, age, qualifications, while they are important, but the gig economy is working more today on the skills that you bring to the table,
Sure.
and not number of years,
Right.
and not your white hair.
Right.
Yeah, that is.
Smart working over hard working for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And people need to, the reason people take to gig work is also because of work-life balance.
Right.
Today, millennials are saying, I need to get out on a weekend.
Sure.
And our time, I remember, there was no concept of weekend. We had to work 8 days a week.
Right.
So, but today the behaviors are different. The needs are different.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sumaya, for talking with us.
Yeah,
I mean, this was
pleasure.
really insightful a chat. I mean, I have gotten to know about so many concepts, which of course I wasn't aware of before the chat. So thank you so much. Thank you for
pleasure.
taking time out. Guys, this was a fabulous chat with Mr. Sumer Datta, who told us so much about gig economy and several other things. Don't go anywhere because time for a short break. I mean, really short break, because we are going to soon meet Ansa Interiors ke owners. Don't go anywhere.
2, 1.
Hi friends, I'm Sapna Agarwal, Creative Director of Ansa Interiors.
Hi Sapna.
Hi.
Welcome to HOPStart. Thank you so much for being a part of HOPStart.
Thank you.
I'll get into details about Ansa and about the organization, about a little bit about your journey. But to start with, as a layman, for young guys who want to start their career, how to be an interior designer?
How to be an interior designer? So I would say that it's an inborn capability of being an interior designer or being any designer for that matter. So that creativity, imagination, and probably that visualization is God gifted. While the other things, learning about the layouts, learning about the material application is something that somebody can learn through.
Fair enough. And if I may ask you, how different is it from architecture? I mean, there have been situations where a lot of people kind of mix this together.
Yes.
Or maybe like both are in sync. But if we can if you can help me in
architecture is more about buildings. That means how to lay the foundation, how to erect the building is more about architecture.
Right.
But how to design it interiorly, that is about an interior designer. So though both the fields are kind of hand in hand, but they're not the same.
So basically, if someone wants to get into this field, what kind of educational training and what kind of basically what are the options for someone to kind of?
So today I think there are a lot of options available for interior designing. Initially there was only a diploma available.
Right.
So a lot of institutes like INFT, like IAT, they used to offer design diplomas.
Right.
And that was it. So any 12th pass student from any stream could enter into designing.
Right.
But today things have changed. There is a B Design, which is a government 3-year program, and it's a degree program.
Okay.
So after the B Design, you can do an M Design, which is again in interior designing.
All right.
So now I think the horizons are bigger.
And if so, basically interior designing, and now comes the point of entrepreneurship. Like for you, it's been a journey of 17 years journey, and you started with the table, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And today we are talking about the other level of business. How has that part of been? Okay, now we have understood a little bit about interior designing, but taking that skill up and being an entrepreneur also at the same time, how do you do this?
So let's understand that the creativity and business skills have to go hand in hand. So if you want to work with some institute, which is probably one of the good organizations, I think if you're an interior designer with good creativity and less business skills, I would advise you to work with somebody, because managing the whole show requires a different skill set also, which is managing your staff, your supervisors, because at one end you're dealing with labor. That means they will only understand Hindi, their language that they use is different. So they will never call a staircase, staircase, and they'll never call a stairwell, stairwell.
Right.
So for them it's still a जीना, और कुछ भी बताना हो तो it suits soul में करना है. उनको ये नहीं बोल सकते that it has to be perpendicular to the wall.
Right. So I mean, their perspective is completely different.
So their terminology is also different. So at one end you're dealing with people who will understand only the basic language, and you have to get a work done from them, and truly it's a very unorganized sector. So they don't really work very professionally, they're not very committed, I would say. So you'll find very few people at that stage who are very professional and very well qualified, I'll say. But most of them will learn by probably joining their father's business. Painter ka beta painter ban gaya, types. So you're one side you're dealing with them, on the second end is your high-end clients.
Right.
So you have to know about Villeray and Bosch, and you have to know about Armani furniture, and you have to be well traveled to talk about different set of hotels that they have visited, and probably just understand their lifestyle.
Right.
So we are talking about two different extremes of the society.
Completely, there's a contrast.
Completely different.
Yeah.
So just to merge with both of them, and to understand that you have to deal with both the set of people and get your work done.
Wow.
So that requires a different skill.
Okay.
So what I'm advising is that if somebody really is very good at designing and not very good at management, then join a better organization.
Fair enough.
But then it's a paying business.
Sapna, one thing, I'm sure you have a huge organization for yourself and a team. I'm sure you hire in people as well. What is that trait or the characteristics you look into people when you are hiring in?
Okay, so in our office, we particularly we hire people according to the skill set we require.
Okay.
So there is a different supervisor. So the set of supervisors are completely different set. That means they will only have to manage the sites. They just do not do AutoCAD or they do not interfere in our designing. They only have to understand our language, get it interpreted on the site. They only
Right.
have to manage
So
the
that's
labor.
one of the kind of
So
thing.
that's one. The second set would be the interior designers.
Yes.
So interior designers are generally hired according to how much they have studied and how much experience they have. Because the more the experience, I think the better they get with their work.
Right.
Because in this field, I think more than your education, the experience pays.
The exposure.
Yeah, the exposure, the experience, how much have you really worked on site, have you really visited the site or not, is something which is more relevant here.
Right.
And then the third would be a 3D visualizer.
Okay.
Most of the time, I think institutes also mix between an interior designer and a 3D visualizer, whereas there are two different streams.
Right.
So
So,
a
that's
3D
completely a specific skilled
Yeah.
thing 3D for a 3D visualizer.
So somebody who has designed it and somebody who's good at computers are two different people. So somebody who knows how to design, sketch and use AutoCAD may just not be good at 3D Max.
Yeah.
So somebody who's good at 3D Max, V-Ray, iOS and then Photoshop,
different applications.
different
for-
applications.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
why mix them? You can take the best of out of the person. Why mix?
But it's so great that there are so many options. It's just
Yes.
not one, right?
Yeah.
That's great, and someone should not just kind of zero down to like I'll have to be like a designer, interior designer. I mean, into that also there are categorization, and you actually have an option
Yes,
like
you
that.
can also be an interior stylist. You don't need to be an interior designer if
And
you
what
don't
if?
want to be.
And what if, as you said, that experience is more important and all. What if someone really wants to start his or her organization and maybe like some kind of an initiative by
So
themselves?
every big business, even for Ambani's, they start for single.
Yeah.
So you start taking freelancing projects. Start with one project. Once you are and start with a smaller project. Don't mess with the money of the client.
Fair enough.
So you should always start with somebody who's putting in less money and not really putting in lakhs or crores, because it's not right to mess with ecology and it's not right to mess with the client's money. It's not fair.
Fair enough. Sapna, thank you so much. That was, although like a quick chat, I wish I could have continued chatting with you. Great. I mean, I really got a lot of insight actually. We've been meeting architects,
Yeah.
and this is also an insight, and it's always helpful for our viewers to kind of get more info on this. Before wrapping up, any like quick advice or tips or suggestion to the young guys who are wanting to be in this field of
So
interior
I would
design?
suggest that they have to know what they really want to be. They want to be an interior designer, a stylist, a 3D visualizer, or probably they just want to manage the sites. So if they just need to know where they have to reach after 10 years down the line and then decide today.
Fair enough. Sapna, thank you so much for that quick chat, and I'm sure my viewers will get something out of this today.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for being part of HOPStart.
Thank you.
Thanks.